What if your silence was the loudest weapon you had? What makes someone truly powerful? Is it the volume of their voice, the size of their following, or is it something quieter, something deeper? What if you could make your enemies fear you without saying a single word? You don't need rage, you don't need threats. You don't even need to explain yourself, you just need control. Welcome to a new kind of power, the power of stillness, silence, and stoic strength. If you're on a path of self-mastery, self-respect, and self-discipline, you're in the right place. Subscribe if you're ready to learn how to become untouchable, not through domination, but through presence. 1. Silent power. When words weaken, silence dominates. Real strength isn't loud. That's a hard truth in a world obsessed with noise. We're surrounded by people shouting to be heard, desperate to be seen, constantly trying to prove themselves. Social media is filled with declarations, arguments, and the never-ending need for validation. But the strongest individuals, the ones who truly hold power, move differently. They don't announce their presence. They don't feel the need to explain, to debate, or to shout. Their power is quiet, almost unsettling in its calm. And that silence, that's where dominance begins. True power doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't ask for approval or validation. It doesn't tremble under criticism or require an audience to feel secure. Instead, it emanates from stillness, from clarity, from the ability to remain composed in the middle of chaos. When someone walks into a room and says nothing but holds everyone's attention, that's silent power. It's the kind of energy that changes the mood without a word. It makes others lean in, feel uncertain, feel watched, even when they're not. There's an element of unpredictability in silence. When your enemies don't know what you're thinking, they can't prepare for your next move. They're left to guess, to assume, and most of the time, those assumptions work against them. Silence strips them of their power to manipulate or control. It removes the map they try to use against you. While they're busy plotting a response, you've already moved past them, mentally and strategically. They get stuck in their own confusion. Think about a time you saw someone stay silent in a heated discussion. Everyone else was arguing, talking over each other, pushing their opinions forward, and then there's that one person sitting back, observing, not reacting. That person holds the most power in that moment. Why? Because while everyone else reveals their position, that silent individual keeps their cards hidden. Their calm unsettles everyone else. Their unreadable presence becomes a mystery, and people fear what they can't read. There's strength in not needing to explain yourself. There's power in choosing to say less when the world is pressuring you to say more. In that space, you build something far more formidable than noise. You build presence. You build mystique, and more importantly, you retain control. When you're silent, you're not submitting, you're sharpening, you're calculating. You're commanding the energy of the room without lifting your voice. You're saying, I don't need to convince you, I know who I am. That's unshakable. That's the kind of strength that outlasts performance and outmaneuvers manipulation. Silent power isn't about passivity. It's about strategy. It's the understanding that reaction is often weakness in disguise. It's knowing that a composed mind is more dangerous than a reactive one. And it's the wisdom to let your actions, your decisions, and your presence speak louder than any words ever could. 2. Control your reaction. Command the situation. Most people don't realize how easily they're manipulated. All it takes is a few sharp words, a little criticism, or a subtle insult, and they explode. They argue, defend themselves, over-explain, or lash out. They think they're fighting back, but what they're really doing is handing over control. Because the moment you react, you're no longer operating from a place of strength. You've entered someone else's frame, and now they're dictating the terms. But when you don't respond, when you don't flinch, you shift the dynamic completely. Think about it. Someone insults you. They expect a reaction. They expect to see you flustered, angry, wounded. But if you don't give it to them, if you stay calm, composed, unaffected, you throw them off balance. You deny them the very power they were trying to take. That stillness, your ability to pause instead of react, becomes a weapon, not one of violence, but one of precision and control. Every time you react emotionally, you give someone the blueprint to control you. You're showing them exactly where to press next time. But when you remain composed, you become unreadable, and that unreadability becomes your armor. It's not easy. Staying calm when provoked goes against human instinct. Our brains are wired for survival, and we often mistake emotional reactions for defense mechanisms. But growth comes from recognizing that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to explain yourself to those who already misunderstand you. Your peace, your energy, is not something to give away lightly. The strongest people aren't the ones who win the argument. They're the ones who don't need to participate in it. They understand that reacting is often what the other person wants. It validates them. It gives them a sense of control. But if you remove yourself from that equation, not by walking away, but by staying centered, you take back control. Control is calm. Control is presence. Control is having the clarity to choose your response or not to respond at all. And when you master that, you don't just survive the situation, you command it. This is what dominance really looks like. Not the loudest voice in the room, not the person who gets in the last word, but the one who doesn't flinch, the one who keeps their power by refusing to be baited. If you want to rise above manipulation, learn to pause. If you want to win without fighting, learn to listen more than you speak. And if you want to command a room, master your emotions before anything else. Because the one who controls their reaction controls everything. 3. Real stories, real power. How silence turns the tables. Let's talk about real power. Not theories, not quotes, but actual lived experience. Stories of people who didn't scream for justice, didn't argue for respect, didn't fight noise with more noise. They just walked into the storm, stood tall and said nothing. Not because they were weak, but because they understood something deeper. Silence is strength when it comes from a place of self-awareness and unshakable confidence. Take the story of a young woman who worked in a cutthroat corporate office. Her team constantly undermined her. Backhanded comments in meetings, subtle sabotage behind the scenes, whispers that she wasn't capable. The pressure to defend herself, to prove her worth, to fight back, it was enormous. But she didn't. Instead, she chose silence. She documented everything. She kept her emotions in check. She said little in meetings, only speaking when necessary, and when she did, it was precise and grounded. Over time, the gossip turned to paranoia. People wondered what she knew. They wondered why she never responded, never reacted. The silence made them uneasy. And eventually, the ones who tried to break her were the ones who cracked. They exposed themselves. Her silence revealed their instability. In another case, a man returned to a toxic family gathering after years of being the scapegoat. They expected the same patterns, arguments, explanations, emotional outbursts, but this time, he was different. He didn't argue. He didn't justify himself. He didn't play the game. He listened, he smiled, he gave nothing away, and within an hour, the energy of the room shifted. They were lost without the dynamic they used to feed on. His silence removed their power. Why does this work? Because people fear what they don't understand. And silence is deeply misunderstood. Most people associate silence with submission or weakness. But in reality, deliberate silence is a sign of control. It means you are choosing not to engage. You are choosing not to let others dictate your energy. That choice is power. Silence makes people question. It makes them wonder what you're thinking, what you know, what you're planning. And that uncertainty is powerful. It forces them to deal with their own discomfort instead of projecting it onto you. But here's the key. Silence only becomes power when it's rooted in self-respect. If you're quiet because you're afraid, that's not power, that's fear. But if you're silent because you know who you are and don't need to prove it, that's dominance. So the next time you find yourself in a toxic room or under verbal attack or feeling the pressure to defend your worth, pause, choose stillness, let your silence speak for you. Because when words weaken, silence dominates. 4. The discipline of stillness. Building an unshakable core. If you want this kind of power, the kind that doesn't flinch under pressure, that remains grounded in storms, that operates with clarity when everyone else is lost in noise, you have to earn it. Power like that isn't given. It's built, slowly, intentionally, internally. It starts within. You can't expect to handle the external chaos of life if your inner world is a mess. You have to build a calm core, a quiet strength inside you that cannot be shaken by gossip, criticism, or the uncontrollable swings of fortune. That calm is not passivity. It's discipline. It's a choice. It is the refusal to let the outside world dictate your inner state. The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, didn't preach stillness as inaction. They taught it as mastery over the self. It's about training your mind to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, to anchor yourself in reason rather than emotion. That's stillness. And it's not easy. It takes effort. But with practice, it becomes your natural state, a foundation you return to, no matter what the world throws at you. Stillness means you no longer react out of impulse. You observe, you assess, you respond with intent, not emotion. And in this, you become powerful because most people are slaves to their feelings, their fears, their insecurities. They react to everything. They need validation. They're desperate to be seen. But you operate differently. To build this calm core, you need a few things. First, clarity of purpose. You must know who you are and what you stand for. Without this, you're easily swayed. One opinion pushes you here, another pulls you there. But with purpose, you remain centered. Second, you need the discipline of self-reflection. Take time each day to check in with yourself. Ask, am I acting from my values or from ego? Am I chasing peace or attention? Am I being true to my path? These questions keep you grounded. They guide you back to your center. Third, embrace solitude. Learn to be alone with your thoughts. Turn off the noise, social media, news, gossip, distractions. Sit in silence. Let your mind slow down. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, but eventually, you'll find clarity. And that clarity is power. Stillness also requires letting go. Letting go of the need to control everything. Letting go of the need to prove yourself. Letting go of the past, of regret, of fear. When you stop clinging, you start living. You start seeing clearly. And when your vision clears, so does your path. When you know your direction, you no longer need applause. You stop begging for attention or affirmation. You become focused on movement, not recognition. That's the difference between those who lead and those who follow. Leaders walk with purpose. Followers wait for permission. Stillness is not about hiding. It's about being so deeply rooted in yourself that you cannot be moved by storms. It's about standing still, even when the world demands you panic. When you can do that, When your inner state is no longer hostage to external events, you've built something powerful. When you trust your silence, you don't feel the need to explain yourself. You don't rush to defend your actions. You don't get pulled into petty arguments. You simply know who you are, and that's enough. People follow noise because it's loud, it's distracting, it's constant. But they respect silence when it's backed by depth, by mastery, by purpose. That's the kind of presence you want to cultivate. You don't have to speak loudly when your actions echo your strength. You don't have to announce your value when it's already felt. Stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the presence of mastery. And when you carry that kind of calm within you, you become unshakable. You become powerful, not because you control others, but because nothing can control you. 5. Say less. Move smart. The Stoic Way to Power. Here's the secret. The strongest people are often the quietest. They don't boast, they don't explain, they don't chase attention, because real strength doesn't need to be advertised. It speaks for itself. In a world obsessed with visibility and constant updates, silence has become a superpower. Most people feel a compulsive need to broadcast their every move, to prove they're doing something, to stay in the spotlight. But those who move smart know better. They understand that power thrives in mystery. The Stoics taught, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. You don't need to tell people what you believe. You show them through your actions. You move with intent, with discipline, with precision. You let your results speak for you. When you speak less, people listen more. When you reveal less, people wonder more. Your unpredictability becomes your weapon. Your restraint becomes your advantage. In a world where everyone's playing the loud game, you play the long game, the strategic one. Think of the people who truly hold power. They're not the ones constantly in the spotlight. They're the ones pulling the strings behind the scenes. Quiet, focused, effective. They're not chasing applause. They're building legacy. That's the Stoic way. Every time you move in silence, you gain a layer of protection. You become harder to read, harder to control. You don't give others the blueprint to your strategy. And in doing so, you keep your power. Noise reveals. Silence shields. Let others talk. Let them make noise, make predictions, make assumptions. You move. Quietly, decisively, relentlessly. You don't need to explain your vision to those who can't see it. You don't need to justify your goals to those who lack the courage to pursue their own. This isn't about arrogance. It's about discipline. It's about refusing to waste energy on things that don't move you forward. Talking is cheap. Everyone can talk. But few can do the work day after day without needing validation. That's where power is born, in silence, in consistency, in motion. People will wonder what you're up to. Let them. That curiosity creates presence. When you're not constantly revealing your next move, others become alert. They pay attention. Your restraint becomes influence. Your silence becomes strength. Moving smart means being aware of your environment, of your timing, of your energy. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment deserves a reply. You pick your moments. You strike when it matters, and you walk away when it doesn't. There's a quiet confidence in those who say little but accomplish much. It's the confidence that comes from self-trust, from knowing who you are and where you're going, and that's something no one can take from you. So ask yourself, are you talking about the life you want, or are you quietly building it? Are you sharing your every plan, or are you executing it in silence? Are you seeking attention or commanding? Respect, the Stoic path is clear. Say less, move smart, build in silence. Let your work do the talking. Let your success echo long after you've left the room. That's power, that's wisdom, That's how you win, not with noise, but with quiet. Relentless purpose. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay dangerous. You don't need to roar to be feared. You don't need to fight to win. If you want to become the kind of person no one can shake, then master your silence. Protect your energy. Refuse to react. Move with intent. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay dangerous. And if this message resonates with you, don't just watch. Grow with us. Subscribe. Follow the path. And become the calmest, most powerful person in every room.